So again, good morning, everyone. My name is Jeff Fleming from used to be Vital Smarts, Australia, New Zealand, and now Crucial Dimensions as of early this year. And so we keep talking about being past COVID, but obviously we're still in some form of COVID happening now. So I hope everyone is well. We really appreciate you taking the time to join us today. Good morning, Amy. Amy in Western Australia, our product manager for GTD. Can you hear me okay, Amy?
Yeah, morning, Jeff. Can hear you well.
Morning, and thanks for joining in. And also Justin in beautiful downtown Utah. How's your weather over there, Justin? And can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you great. Weather's beautiful. Great to be here.
Great, and thank you. We again appreciate your time being on today. And so for some of us that have been around and know a little bit about us, for more than 10 years, we have worked with organisations across Australia and New Zealand in a journey in supporting with teams, leaders, managers and their teams with globally proven and sustainable speak up skills. And there's probably numbers out there that are aware of Crucial Conversations training. You may have done some of our training, and we've seen some amazing stuff happen over the last 10 years with organisations. And I know a couple recently, particularly New Zealand, who have been able to just transform their organisations as they either grow in their local markets or in some cases grow around the world. But as we know, we're still in some level of uncertain times. And we've got today Justin Hale. I'll introduce Justin in just a second. But the challenges we're seeing now is moving from uncertainty and at times overwhelm and procrastination. Justin will show us and help us solve some of the challenges and help us move to clarity, productivity, and most importantly, what we call peace of mind. So during the webinar today, there'll be opportunities to ask questions. We'll get some links to those who are with us at the end to get some more information, talk about next steps. So again, we appreciate you being here today. Feel free to take lots of notes. And again, as we get through, we'll break with questions on your chat box. If you need to, just jump in with any questions you might have. So let me now introduce Justin Hale. I've known Justin for probably about 12 years now. And Justin is not only a productivity expert, but he's the host of the One Productive Minute and a dynamic speaker and dynamic keynote speaker and trainer. And I've seen Justin across a range of different events, speaking on stage and dealing and working with groups. And the thing I love about working with people like Justin is Justin's very high energy. His research and writing has been published across CNBC.com, Fox Business, Bloomberg, and HR.com. Justin's addressed audiences on topics such as bridging generation gaps in the workplace, productivity, personal productivity, and team accountability, not to mention Crucial Conversations. Justin, again, welcome. We appreciate your time. I'm going to hand over to you today. As I said, as we get through, jump in your chat box. I know that Justin will be doing a lot of this, and we'll come back to you with questions. Love your commentary, love your feedback, and we hope you enjoy the session today. Justin, over to you, my friend.
Great. Thank you so much, Jeff. And hello, everyone. It's good to be here from the other side of the world, joining you from Utah in the US. So it's good to be here, and I'm grateful to talk about this specific topic. I would guess that for many of you, if not all of you, this is something that you're thinking about all the time, right? This idea of how do I go about beating burnout in the most effective way? How do I go about addressing the fact that I feel overwhelmed, or the people that work for me feel overwhelmed? And so today's session is going to be about beating burnout in 3 easy steps. Okay. Now, what I'm curious about is, to what degree do you feel burnt out? Now, there's a lot of research around this, but I want to start by actually asking you. So we're going to start with a poll here. Febby's going to help us out. We've got two polls. The first I'm going to ask you is, how often would you say you're burned out? So Febby, if you go ahead and pull up that poll, let's get a feel for the group that's joining us here today and their degree of burnout right now. And when we talk about burnout, we're talking about is feeling overwhelmed, feeling like you have too much, maybe even losing a sense of satisfaction in your work. So I want you to take a second and answer the poll. And there's really two. Have you experienced burnout? Yes or no? And two, are there people in your organization that you know that are currently experiencing burnout? Yes or no? So take a second and answer that poll. Love for all of you to jump in. Go ahead and jump in now. All right, another 5 seconds to get everyone's views. Go ahead and jump in. Have you experienced burnout? And are there people in your organization right now that you know are experiencing burnout? Take a second and answer yes or no very quick. Febby, why don't you go ahead and let's close that poll and look at if you wouldn't mind launching the results. And look at this. 86% of you have or are experiencing burnout, and 90% of you, even more, know someone, you won't name names, know someone who's experiencing burnout right now. That's pretty similar, and in some ways even more intense than what we're seeing right now in the research. So if you look at what the research suggests, there's a variety of different studies that have been done, and I looked at a handful of publications. But if you look at the publications, there's sort of a spectrum of how much people are experiencing this, okay? So if you look at this data, and I apologize, let me just get to this right slide here. If you look at this data, it gives us two kind of data points here. Anywhere from 52 to 79% of people are self-reporting that they are currently feeling burnt out. They're feeling completely fed up working at home, so overwhelmed that when they're at work, all they're thinking about is home stuff, or when they're at home, all they're thinking about is work stuff. They have so much on their plate, they cannot handle it. And what it's driving people to do is quit and leave their organization, or even worse, quit and stay in their organization, right? So employee burnout is a huge problem. We hear organizational leadership teams complaining all the time about how do we address the fact that our people are burnt out? They're losing their sense of self-satisfaction for the work. They're not engaging as much as they used to. It's a huge problem for us because employee engagement drives better results and better overall performance. And yet when people are burned out, you get the opposite of that. You get people going through the motions. You get people quitting in place. So it looked like the group here that's joining us, similar types of experiences, feeling burnt out. Now, what I've discovered is when it comes to the why of employee burnout, there's two key contributors in my view. There's a lot of things going on, but there's really two big challenges when it comes to burnout. The first is people say, I've got too much to do. If I were to ask each of you right now, how many of you would say you're overcommitted? You've committed to more than you can actually complete. My guess is the vast majority of you would raise your hand and say, yes, absolutely. I am well overcommitted. And for those of you that work in healthcare, you probably raise your hand twice, right? This idea of saying, I've got so much going on. My shifts are long. I've got a lot of work. I'm exhausted. And yet I have all these commitments I have to take care of. There's only 24 hours in a day. And yet somehow you and I have committed to enough work that would probably take us 36 hours to complete. So that's the first challenge when it comes to burnout. We have too much to do. The second big challenge, this is visual that probably represents how you feel. The second big challenge is this idea here, which is we're spending our time doing the wrong stuff. We're spending our time doing the wrong stuff. Visually, I like to represent it this way. I was super busy today, but I got absolutely nothing done. I was super busy today, but I got absolutely nothing done. I'm just curious for you to type in the chat. Type yes if you felt this way in the past 2 weeks, where you finished your day, you felt completely exhausted, you felt tired, and yet you look back at your plan for the day and you got almost nothing completed that you intended to get done. Go ahead and type yes in the chat. Just curious here. Febby, I still can't see any chats from the learners here. All right. I'm guessing I'm seeing a lot of yeses here, right? This is a very common thing. So we've got these two huge challenges, which is one, I have way too much to do. And two, I find myself working on the wrong stuff during the day. And that's a huge issue. That creates a huge amount of burnout, right? Because you're not actually getting something finished each day. And by the way, even if you do get something finished, you're just staring down the massive list of other things you haven't completed. And so we throw up our hands and say, I can't do it anymore. We hit that burnout level. So whether you're a frontline employee, whether you're a manager, whether you're an executive, whether you're a doctor or a nurse or a healthcare administrator, this is something that we all face. And yet the truth is most of us don't know how to even start thinking about addressing this. So what I want to do is give you 3 tips that will help you right now, 3 steps that will help you right now start to address burnout, whether that be for yourself, whether that be for the people that work for you, whether that be people that work around you. I know many of you are coming from healthcare organizations. Maybe it's people that you work with within your own hospital culture. 3 tips. First, capture more so you miss less. Second, keep a complete inventory of your commitments. And third, identify when and how to say no. And I know that third step is staring some of you right in the face and you're kind of going, I don't want to look at that, right? The idea of saying no is something we talk about, but we don't do very well. I'm going to address that. First step, capture more so you miss less. There's a problem in terms of the amount of volume. So I'm going to need a little help from Febby on this one. As people chat, you're going to need to read some of these chats off for me, just give you a heads up. But I want to do a little exercise here. Don't type anything just yet in the chat, but I want you to think about this. What is something you really wanted or intended to get done, but haven't gotten it done? Something you really wanted or intended to get done, but haven't gotten it done. It could be home, work, personal, professional, cats, dogs, kids, finances, around your house. Something you really wanted or intended to get done, but haven't gotten done. Get that in your mind. And then let me ask this follow-up question. How long has that one thing been on your mind? So I want you to take a second and type in the chat. First, type in, what is that one thing that's been in your mind? And then maybe put a dash or in parentheses, how long has getting it done been on your mind? Take a second and type that into the chat. Febby, I'm getting someone saying that the chat is been disabled. So why don't you go ahead and type it in the Q&A, folks. If you can do the Q&A, go ahead and do that instead. Yep, let's have you use the Q&A. That's fine. Go ahead and use the Q&A. Yep,
Justin, sorry, it's Jeff. Can you can see the Q&A okay, can you?
I can.
Yeah,
yep,
very cool. Yeah, coming in now.
Okay, great. So go ahead and type in the chat, or excuse me, type in the Q&A. What is something you really wanted or intended to get done, but haven't gotten it done? And how long has it been on your mind to get that thing done? Go ahead and type in the Q&A. Looks like we've had a couple here, a couple people. Yep. Yeah, David Benjamin, absolutely. Yep. But it's not just frustration, it's the pattern of frustration. So good point. Okay, still waiting for, yep, great. So Natalie says an additional study, and it's been 12 months that it's been on Natalie's mind to get it done. Melanie says decision report to remove fines from children's books, 2.5 years. Report designs as a NUPA, 6 months. Okay, sorting out boxes since I've shifted, 6 months. Personal filing, 12 months. Station, 6 months. Yeah, I mean, look at this stuff. Now, here's the thing. I asked you for one thing. I asked you for just one, okay? One thing that's been on your mind. And the truth is, you likely have hundreds. Now, what do I mean when I say you likely have hundreds? What I mean is agreements or commitments. Now, we typically wouldn't use that term agreement. We would say, I have a to-do, I have a task, I have something I need to take care of. But what those really are commitments, agreements you make to yourself and other people of something you'll take care of or do. Let me give you an example. Every single day, you and I are making dozens of agreements to ourselves or other people. It could be as simple as you pour yourself the last bit of mango juice and you say, I need to go buy more mango juice. Boom, you just made an agreement to yourself. Maybe you're pulling your car away from your home and you see a little portion of the fence around your house that needs to be fixed. And you say to yourself, I need to fix that. Boom, you just made an agreement to yourself. A couple hours later, you get a message from your manager. Hey, will you reach out to this client? You say, yes, you've made an agreement, right? Maybe your colleague is headed off and needs you to check on one of his patients in the hospital. You say, yes, you've made an agreement. You get a text from your spouse that says, will you pick up Sammy from school? You say, yes, you've made an agreement. I think you get the point. You and I make dozens of agreements to ourselves and other people every single day of things we'll take care of. Every single day. And when you add up those agreements, considering all those that you haven't finished, each of us really has an inventory or an entire grouping of agreements we've made to ourselves or other people that could count anywhere from 100 to 150 agreements. And I'm not joking there. I'm not exaggerating. With people I work with, not just executives that we work with, but the everyday person, we have anywhere from 100 to 150 unfinished agreements we've made to ourselves and other people. And I want you to look at this line down here at the bottom. It says, each of these things owns a piece of you. Let me explain what I mean by that. Owns a piece of you. It owns a piece of your attention. It owns a piece of your focus. It owns a piece of your mind. Now, why does that matter? Well, let me take you back about 100 years to Berlin, Germany. This woman here, her name is Bluma Zygarnik. She was a Soviet social scientist studying in Berlin, Germany with the famous social scientist Kurt Lewin. Some of you may have heard of Kurt. He's one of the most famous, most cited social scientists in the history of the world. Well, Bluma was there studying with a handful of other students in his lab. Now, as the story goes, this group of social scientists, this group of students like to frequent a certain cafe in Berlin for breakfast or lunch on a regular basis. Well, one day they head over for breakfast at this cafe. And as they sit down, their waiter is taking their order and they start to notice the uncanny ability of this waiter to remember so many details about their orders, nuances and changes and edits and customizations. And because these are social scientists and not normal people, they have to analyze what's going on. Why is this waiter able to remember all these things? What's going on in his brain? And they're talking and discussing. And as they finish their meal, they start walking away from the cafe back to their lab. And as they're walking away, one of Bluma's colleagues realizes that he forgot something back at the cafe. Might have been a jacket or something like that. As he goes back into the cafe, he runs into the waiter. And upon running into the waiter doesn't remember initially where he was sitting. Well, they get the jacket and the gentleman starts to walk out and he turns to the waiter and he says, you know, I gotta be honest. We were just discussing at the table. You had this amazing memory. And yet when I just came back, at first glance, you couldn't remember where I was sitting. And the waiter said, you know, when the bill is paid, I move on to the next table, to the next thing. I let it go. Bluma spent the rest of her life studying this phenomenon. It came to be called the Zygarnik effect. Here is in essence what she discovered and elaborated on. It's this: your brain is built. It is built to remind you, or your brain is built to forget or let go of completed tasks. Your brain is great at that. Just like the waiter, your brain is great at letting things go that it's completed. However, your brain is also programmed to continually interrupt you and remind you of unfinished tasks. Your brain is built to constantly remind you of unfinished tasks. So think about this for a second. Let's combine these two realities. I just said to you earlier, you have dozens, if not hundreds, of agreements or commitments you've made to yourself and other people that you haven't finished. And then your brain is built to constantly remind you of unfinished tasks. So when you put those two realities together, what do we get? We get a constantly distracted mind. We get like a little monkey in our brain saying, don't forget, don't forget, don't forget. And here's the problem. Your brain is not very smart in some ways. It's not very good at differentiating between past, present, and future. Your brain thinks that if you've made an agreement, you should be doing it all the time. Your brain thinks all the time you should be reminded of all the things you haven't finished. And it reminds you in the worst possible moments. In the middle of the night, you wake up and you say, oh, I forgot to buy milk from the store. As if you could do anything about it in that moment. And your brain thinks if you haven't finished the agreement, you should finish it. Or maybe you're in the shower getting ready for the morning and your brain reminds you of that email you still haven't sent to your boss. You can't do anything about it. You're in the shower. So I want you to, we've been on this session now for 20 minutes, and I want you to be honest with me. How many of you, and you can just type yes in the Q&A, or how many of you in the last 20 minutes have thought of something that you need to take care of that has absolutely nothing to do with our session today? Go ahead and type yes in the Q&A if that's happened to you. In the last 20 minutes since we've been on this session, have had something take up your mental space, crossed your mind of something you need to take care of that has nothing to do with our session today. Go ahead and type in the Q&A. Just type yes. I'm just curious. Okay, right off the bat, we got a bunch of you answering. Now, of those of you that said yes, how many of you have made significant progress on finishing that thing? I'm not seeing nearly as many chats. Why? Well, because you're here. And by the way, instead of finishing that thing, what have you done? You've done something very productive. You've stressed. You've worried. You've allowed that thing to take up mental space to keep you from being focused and present on this session right now. And yet that is the way we live our life every single day. If you're a salesperson, you're trying to constantly think about these unfinished tasks and focus on your clients. If you're a nurse, trying to focus on your patients, and yet simultaneously, your mind is saying, don't forget about this, don't forget about this, don't forget about this. You are a better performer when your mind is focused and present. That's not just something you do when you're trying to do yoga. That is there's a clear correlation between mental focus and presence and high performance, whether you're writing a proposal or selling a product, writing marketing copy, cooking spaghetti, hitting a golf ball, doing brain surgery. If your mind is distracted by all your other commitments, you are not focused and present, and your performance level will drop. Your efficiency will drop. Your quality will drop. So your ability to be able to keep a clear mind is highly correlated with your ability to perform at high levels, whatever you're trying to do, whether you're reading a book to your children or building a rocket to go into space. And yet instead, what you and I do is we use our brains to hold all that stuff. Let me show you a humorous example that I absolutely love. We're going to watch an example here of a gentleman named Porter. This is meant to be funny, by the way, so feel free to laugh. But this gentleman you see here on the screen, his name is Porter, and he juggles a pretty busy life like most of us. I want you to watch as we get a view into his life. He's like you and I. He has dozens, if not hundreds, of unfinished agreements he needs to complete. Okay. And we're going to get a view into his life in terms of how he manages all of those agreements. So we're going to have some fun with this. Feel free to laugh, but I want you to type in the Q&A. What do you notice about how he manages his work? What's his strategy? What's his strategy for managing all of his agreements? And what's the impact of that strategy on him and the other people he works with? Let's take a look.
Earlier this year, Porter finished his undergrad with a 3.8 GPA and landed his first job. He really likes it. He lives with 2 roommates and has a 90-minute round-trip commute. A few times a month, he tutors high school math students. He has a not-so-reliable car with 3 different types of tires, and winter is coming. He runs a daily blog about his favorite t-shirts. Right now, he is on time for his weekly check-in with the department director.
So a good time?
Yeah. Porter, morning, good to see you. So Porter, this week's gonna be a lot more difficult than last week. I have quite a few things I need you to take care of, okay? First off, if you could get the project 1-pager to the printer, that would be good. And then go ahead and order lunch for the Doing Things Once video shoot later today. And ask Jennifer if she can get a reservation at the Grand for David. That's the one downtown. And then ask the guys in marketing if they can get us the content for the Being Smart campaign. We have a lot of items, and if we don't get that soon, we're going to be so. And the last thing, and this is probably most important, so I'll do it first, actually. Please need to get that to your ASAP. Got that?
Yep. Yeah.
You sure?
Absolutely. It's going to be great.
Silly. But as you think about this, we are much more like Porter than we often want to admit. So here is the solution. As we have coached and trained the very best at getting things done and overcoming burnout, we've discovered one key thing. They never keep anything in their minds. Those that are able to be highly productive and keep low levels of stress never keep things in their mind they need to take care of. They leave their mind to be able to do what it does best. So we're going to do a little bit of an exercise right now called the mind sweep. We're going to do a mini mind sweep. I'm going to give you 2 minutes to do this. I'm going to put the timer on my phone to do this mini mind sweep. I want everyone to grab a scratch sheet of paper, open up a digital document. I don't care. And please don't skip this. Please don't go do email. Do this exercise with me. I want you to do this here. I'm going to give you 2 minutes. And in 2 minutes, I want you to try to write down or type out on this blank sheet of paper as many things as you can that are pulling on your attention right now, that are taking up mental space. Personal, professional, I don't care. I'm not looking for you to create a nice, neat to-do list. I'm looking for you to go for volume. Try to do a brain dump. Excuse me, a brain dump of everything that has your attention. Okay, so you have 2 minutes. Get everything off your mind that you can. Excuse me. And I want it to be personal, professional, financial, pets, kids. Doesn't matter, okay? So you have 2 minutes to write all those things down on a piece of paper as best you can to capture as many things as you can. 2 minutes to do a brain dump, and I want to see who can get the most. Ready? 2 minutes, go.
Justin, is this a very emotional part of the webinar for you, is it? Just checking.
Very emotional. This 2 minutes is the most important part.
Just checking. Drink of water time.
I'm going to keep my timer here, 2 minutes. You have about 30 seconds left. You're doing a brain dump. Everything that's on your mind that has your attention, try to get it off your mind onto a piece of paper. We're going to see who can get the most here. Personal, professional, finances, kids, errands, anything you need to take care of that's pulling in your attention, get it off your mind. Let's take a look at what comes out. Okay, great. So what I'd like you to do, I'd like you to go in the Q&A and type how many items were you able to get off your mind in that short 2-minute period of time. This is really what I call a mini mind sweep, right? Because if I were sitting next to each of you at your desks, it would probably take me anywhere from 45 minutes to an hour and a half to get everything off your mind that has your attention. But we're going to do a little mini version of this. So take a second, type in the chat, how many items were you able to get off your mind in that 2 minutes? Okay, go ahead and type in the Q&A. Go ahead and type in the Q&A. How many items were you able to get off your mind? Okay, so what do we have here? Okay, so 22, 14, 21, 19. So on average, we're around 20 items, okay? And who wins here? Let's see. Stuart has 28. I think Stuart might win here. Well done to Stuart. Okay, now to be fair to Stuart, if I were to be sitting down with each of you, like I said, it would take us probably an hour or so to really get everything off your mind that has your attention. The very best at having a clear mind, lower levels of stress, but also getting the right things done, they never keep things in their mind they need to get done. never keep things in their mind. As soon as something comes to mind, you get it off your mind. Doing this mind sweep exercise it sort of simulates this idea of never keeping things on your mind. Why? Your mind is for having ideas, not for holding them. Your mind is for having ideas, not for holding them. Your brain was never built to hold ideas. You can look at some research that was done about 7 years ago at the University of Missouri in the US. And this has been replicated in a variety of ways. But what they found is that your brain can hold about 4 things, give or take 2. So the best among us can hold about 6, and the least among us can hold about 2 when it comes to your active short-term memory. Your brain is not built to hold things. Your brain is built to be creative and thoughtful and present. And yet when you use your brain as an office, you set yourself up for complete failure. Think about your organization. Think about your team. How many things are left up to chance because people use their brains as their office? I have found there is no great honor in being a teammate who, quote unquote, takes great mental notes. That is not a good thing. Your mind is for having ideas, not for holding them. So the first step to overcoming burnout is getting stuff off your mind. When you keep all of your commitments and agreements and projects in your mind in some form, it weighs on you as this amorphous blob on your shoulders, overwhelming you every single day. You've got to keep stuff off your mind. Second step towards overcoming burnout is keep a complete, I emphasize complete, inventory of your commitments. Now, this may seem simplistic. Some of you may say, oh, keeping an inventory of your commitments is something I do. The truth is 99% of the people I start working with aren't keeping a complete inventory. They're keeping some of the stuff in their mind and some of it outside of their mind. And yet they still use their mind to remember and remind all the stuff they need to take care of. Let me show you a funny example of this. Once again, this is meant to be humorous and funny, but this is a woman named Savannah, and she has lots of different to-dos she needs to take care of. I want you to watch the clever way she's trying to keep track of all this stuff, trying to remember and remind herself of all the things she needs to take care of. So feel free to laugh as you look at her clever but silly strategy for holding all of her to-dos.
Only 3 months left. Sounds like we're ready for Calgary. Yeah. So you're gonna order the lanyards and the booth giveaways by Monday?
Yep, swag.
Savannah, you're gonna check the booth height with fire code, submit the customs forms. Oh, and check with Samir on the marketing email design. Wait. Fire code, custom forms, email design. That's 3 things. Fire custom design. Pretty little fire just for me. Could you in a fireplace, where fireplaces in cabins, where cabins in the mountains. I'm sitting by the fire after a long day of snowshoeing in the mountains of Alberta, where the trade show is. Bam! Got it. Anything else? Mnemonic devices are kind of my thing. Memory tricks for sorting everything. Some people are good at them. I'm really good at them.
We have a bunch of lanyards left over from last year. Maybe we can just use those. Does anybody know where those ended up?
Yeah, I think... Oh, I remember. I got this. Lanyards, land, yards, a field. What's in a field? Grass. What eats grass? Animals. What eats animals? Bears. What else do bears eat?
Salmon, berries.
Porridge! What should Goldilocks do with her bowl after she eats her porridge? Wash it. It rhymes with porridge, wash it. Porridge, wash it. Porridge, wash
You could just check
The
this.
storage closet! They're in the storage closet!
Thanks.
Mnemonic devices to try to remember all the stuff she has to take care of. And is it working? It's clearly annoying her colleagues. It's meant to be funny and dramatic, but how many of us use our minds, rely on our minds to remember and remind us of all the things we have to take care of? Now, in the absence of using our minds, what do most people do instead? Well, what they do is they use their calendar. We use our calendar for to-dos and tasks and errands. We use our calendar for projects and birthdays and deadlines. We use our calendar to remind us of everything. Here is the problem. We use our calendar ineffectively. Our calendar is the only thing we trust for reminders, so we put everything in there. There was a gentleman that one of my colleagues was coaching. This was a very busy person, one of the busiest people on earth. And this guy, when he would get to his office each day, would open up his computer, his calendar app would open up, and he would literally, I'm not exaggerating, snooze 50 to 75 reminders right away. He would snooze 50 to 75 reminders. Why? Because they were reminders that he rolled over and over again. How many of you are using your calendar to hold everything, or you're using your calendar as a rolling to-do list? Can't do it today? Snooze it to the next day. Can't do it the next day? Snooze it to the next day. Just builds and builds and builds. So what's the result? Well, the result is our calendar becomes a catch-all. And with too many things on our calendar, we become completely numb to our calendar. Those reminders don't work anymore. They don't remind us of anything. We have a sense of numbness towards those reminders. So they pop up and we just don't even want to look at them. We just snooze them over and over and over again. So what ends up happening? Well, we miss things. Things go wrong, things blow up, and we don't notice. So the very best at overcoming burnout, they don't just throw everything on their calendars only to be more overwhelmed by the sheer amount of notifications. Instead, they have a really good relationship with both their calendar and something you've never heard of before. It's called a list. Now, I know some of you might be thinking, oh my gosh, eye roll. This guy is completely just insulting my intelligence by talking about lists. But I want you to wait for a second here and hear me out. Well, what is a list? A list is a way for you to keep track of the total inventory of things you've committed to, and a way for you to have that inventory available when and where you need it. The issue is that most of us have some sort of lists, but they're incomplete. So we throw a bunch of stuff on a calendar that's overwhelming and we're numb to it. We have a couple of things on a list here and there that we don't look at very often. So we don't have a productivity system that we trust. With no trust, what do? We let our brains take back the responsibility of remembering and reminding us of all the stuff we have to take care of. And then what happens? Well, we miss stuff. Things go wrong. We drop balls. Things fall through the cracks. We make mistakes. And often it's the most important things in our lives that we miss. Ever missed an important birthday? Ever missed an important event for someone you care about? Ever missed an important phone call? Ever missed a deadline, an important task? Ever dropped a ball at work and let someone down, or missed a client request or a deadline? We've all done that, right? So what I want you to think about is the very best at having low levels of stress, fighting burnout, but also being highly productive. They have a productivity system that includes two things. That's it. A calendar they trust and a set of lists that they trust. Okay? Because you can only feel good about what you're not doing when you know everything you're not doing. You want to make sure you have a complete inventory of everything you've committed to, either on a calendar or on a list. And when you have a complete inventory, it allows you to feel okay when you're doing certain tasks. It allows you to feel okay about all the tasks you're not doing. Third step, you got to identify when and how to say no. And this really leads us to what we were just talking about. We have yet, in our research and in our work with people, have yet to run into someone who is highly successful, I mean a high performer, and simultaneously has moderate to low levels of stress, who does not say no. We do not meet people that way. The people that we meet who maybe are high performers, but also are completely burnt out, those people don't know how to say no. But the people that have high levels of performance and low levels of stress, they have learned to identify when and how to say no. There is no other way around it. If I were to look at your to-do lists right now or your calendars, it would probably feel a little bit like this. You are overcommitted. I had a gentleman come up to me once after a session, and he said, he'd done the mind sweep exercise with me and done a longer version, I think. And he came to me and said, okay, Justin, I'm building an inventory of all my agreements. And he came to me almost belligerent, a little bit offended. And he said, well, what am I supposed to do about this now, Justin? I mean, clearly I have more than I have time to complete. Clearly I have more commitments than I can actually do. What am I supposed to do about that? As if it were my fault, right? As if I'm the one who'd said yes to all those commitments. Some of you might be feeling like this gentleman right now. We feel overcommitted. We feel like we have too much to do. So when it comes to addressing this problem, there are two realities you have to accept if you want to get better at saying no. The first reality you have to accept is, look, you only have 24 hours in a day. A lot of the people I work with, they realize they already have enough commitments for the time they have allotted. But they say yes, and in the back of their mind, they say something like, I'll figure it out, or I'll figure out a way to stretch my time. And the answer is no, you won't. You only have 24 hours in a day. You don't have 26. You don't have 28. And oh, by the way, let me tell you a secret. If I were to magically give you 2 more hours in a day and you had 26 hours, guess what? You'd spend that additional 2 hours the same way you spend the other 24. That wouldn't work anyway. But you only have 24 hours a day and you have to accept that. Second, you can only do one thing at a time. You can't do multiple things at once. So what you need to do is once you have a complete inventory of everything you've committed to, and by the way, this is true for those of you that are managers, you should do this for your team commitments. You need to do an audit of all of your agreements and step back and ask yourself, which of these agreements can we realistically do? Which do we need to go back and decline? And which do we need to renegotiate? Often the discussion in the productivity world is all about efficiency. How do we do things more efficiently? But we don't discuss enough the idea of should we be doing this at all? Peter Drucker said it this way: there is nothing as useless as doing efficiently that which should not be done at all. There are commitments you have on your plate right now that you should not have said yes to. So a mini tip here is something I already taught you. Never keep things on your mind. Get it off your mind. There is a massive benefit of having all of your commitments and agreements in front of your eyes. Because as you see here on the screen, if you actually know what you're committed to, you tend to commit to less. I find that people who follow this practice that I'm teaching you of capturing things outside of their mind rather than keeping them in their mind, they tend to find this word coming to their lips a lot more often, and the word is no. If you clearly know what you're committed to, you are less likely to commit to more. So that's the first tip. You got to keep stuff off of your mind in front of your face. You'll commit to less. The second mini tip is then you got to have a conversation about the stuff you've committed to. I love this statement. The health of a relationship, team, or organization is a function of the average time lag between identifying and discussing problems. You need to shorten the time lag between noticing you're overcommitted and discussing the fact you're overcommitted. The best teams, the most effective individuals, the highest performing hospitals, the best organizations have a culture where there is a short lag time between noticing you're overcommitted and talking about being overcommitted. Now, a lot of people say, okay, I understand that, Justin, but how do I go about having that conversation? Well, here is one suggestion. You want to come off as a contributor who's craving focus, not as a complainer who's craving less work. A lot of times when we bring up the fact that we're overcommitted or we're burnt out or we have too much to do, we say it in a way that makes us sound like we're just complaining about too much. Instead, you want to go into that conversation and say, look, I'm trying to focus on the right things, and I realize I'm going to be busy. I'm not trying to stop being busy. I'm trying to stop being burnt out. I want to focus on the right stuff, and I want to figure out what that right stuff is. One of my favorite examples of this was an organization we worked with where they had specific ways of creating a culture where it was welcome for people to bring it up. And I'm going to actually skip a few slides forward here and show you the types of scripts that help them have these conversations look a little bit like this. If you need to talk with someone about saying no, here are some examples of what it might sound like to say no. I wanted to talk with you about what I'm working on right now. I want to make sure I'm focusing on the right high leverage work, and I'd like to get your help on prioritizing what's most important. This would be a great way to share your good intent with your manager, to have a conversation about being burnt out, being overwhelmed, having too much on your plate. By the way, this should be a conversation that is had within a team meeting. Hey guys, I want to talk with the team about what we're working on right now. I want to make sure we're focused on the highest leverage work, and I want to discuss together what the best priorities are. What are the things we need to say no to so that we can focus on the most important? Because everything you say yes to, you are automatically saying no to something. But are you saying no to the right things? And that's the conversation you need to hold. A couple other good examples here. I wanted to share some concerns I have about my project load. I want to be a solid contributor, but I also don't want to miss things. Third, I don't want to disappoint you or let you down. Keeping commitments is a big deal to me. That's why I want to make sure I can keep the commitments I've already made. Last example, I want to make sure I'm investing my time and energy on things that will make the biggest impact on our team. So the focus here is sharing your good intent. Help the other person understand why you're saying no. And then sometimes you're actually not fully saying no. Maybe you just need to renegotiate. Sometimes saying no is just the beginning of the dialogue, not the end. Maybe you actually just need to renegotiate how much you can help. Maybe you can't help right now, so you're renegotiating time. Maybe you need to renegotiate the how much time you can give. Maybe you can't give 2 days of time. Maybe you can only give 6 hours. Maybe you can offer expertise, but not action. Ideas, but not full action and time in terms of next actions and projects. Maybe you can offer a referral or connection rather than offering time or action. So sometimes saying no isn't the end. Sometimes you're actually offering other things that take less time for you, but still provide value for the other person. So I want to give you one video example. This is a gentleman named Rich Sheridan. He's a leader in an organization called Menlo Innovations. If you were to Google them, you will find they are best in class around the world when it comes to getting projects done on time, on budget, on spec. CEOs travel from all over the world to come to their location outside of Detroit, Michigan in the US to study how they do what they do. Their business is custom software development, which is a expensive, buggy, late type of proposition. And yet this organization is consistently on time, on budget, and on spec. And I want you to listen as their leader talks about the kind of culture they create that allows people to speak up about burnout or overwhelm or too much. Take a look.
The most important piece of accountability around estimating within our system is that my first accountability is to my team to tell them we will never punish you here for missing an estimate. It's a critical piece of accountability of the CEO looking at his team and saying you will never be punished for missing an estimate. Now, given that I've declared that accountability to the team, I need one thing back from them, and that is if they ever get in trouble against their estimate, to simply raise their hand and say, we're going to miss it. We guessed wrong. Now, why are they willing to do that? Because I've established a cultural component here that says we won't punish you if you go over. This is critically important. Now, who do they raise their hand to? They raise it to their project managers. They have to go to their project managers and say, hey, we're working on this 8-hour card. We're 2 hours in. And we suddenly realize that this is probably 16 hours worth of work, not 8. We've actually had to teach our project managers when they get that information to smile and say, thank you for sharing that bad news with me. Most organizations want to squish bad news out. And where does bad news go? It doesn't disappear. It goes underground. It results in quality issues, morale issues, endless hours of overtime trying to meet these unrealistic expectations that were probably handed to you, not asked. Here, we teach our project managers to say thank you for sharing that bad information, and now we can start working on the nuts and bolts of why do you think it's going to go over? Do you understand what it is we're expecting? And if you do, great. Let's communicate to the client that this is probably going to go over and what do they want to do about it.
Wow. So let me ask you, does your organization have this kind of culture? Because if they don't, if you as a leader don't create this kind of culture, or if your leader doesn't create this kind of culture, that is going to get in the way of people saying no when they need to. So burnout, big deal. All of us are experiencing or know someone who's experiencing. But let's take steps to address it. First tip or step, capture more. Don't keep stuff in your head. Your head is for having ideas, not for holding them. There is an inverse relationship between how much you keep something on your mind and how much it gets done. So instead, keep stuff, capture stuff outside of your mind so you miss less. Second, keep a complete inventory of all that stuff you've committed to. When you keep a complete inventory, you feel in control. You have it in front of you. Keep a good productivity system of calendars and lists. And by the way, when you keep a complete inventory, of natural consequence of that is you'll notice you're probably overcommitted, which leads to our third step. You have to identify, thankfully, you'll have an inventory in front of you to identify where you need to do, decline, or renegotiate your agreements. And when it's time to say no, you will share your good intent about why, and you will speak candidly about focus, not just complaining about less work. And if you're a manager, we need to focus on giving people permission to say no, giving people permission to speak up when they're overwhelmed. That's the key. Now, I want to tell you one of the benefits of this. These skills come from this getting things done methodology, or GTD methodology, that I spend much of my life teaching around the world. Here's what I found in a research study we did a few years back. People that do these habits consistently, here's what they experience. And these are not typos. In a study we did, people that do these habits consistently were 55 times less likely to say, I start projects and never get finished. They were 13 times less likely to say, I'm not truly present. They were 18 times less likely to say, I feel overwhelmed and I feel looming tasks over my head all the time. Just by consistently doing these skills I've taught you today, as well as a handful of others, not perfectly, but consistently, these are the kinds of outcomes. They save time and stress. So what I want to do now is turn the time over to you to ask any questions you have. And I know Jeff as well, you'd like to share some ongoing next actions for people as well. But I'll turn the time over to you for any questions that may have popped up for people, as well as some next steps for people, as well as getting some of these skills into their personal, professional, team life.
Thanks, Justin. And yeah, look, Q&A, absolute apologies for chat today. We have no idea, has never been a problem in the past, and I can guarantee won't be a problem in the future. But questions, what's been helpful, what's been useful for today? And can I say, from the time we undertook this training's been run around the world now for, and we'll talk about some of the research now, for about 4 or 5 years, and is based on more than 25 years of research. So it's very well globally founded. But I think the two things that most resonated for me in the train, number one, was the stuff never changes. Who's ever noticed that? The stuff that keeps coming at you never changes. When 2 things drop off, 3 things add on. And so if I don't change the way I think about it, I'll always be in that space about being less productive than what I could be. Number 2, and the key, absolute key for me in the training, was have a way of simply capturing everything. And who's ever been in the car, or you've been at an event or somewhere, and you're not thinking about the event, you're thinking about something else, like the commentary on our webinar today. You're thinking about something else you should be doing. And you try, this is me, I try and juggle it, and then I try and compartmentalize it over there. I'll put it over there because I know I'll get back to it. You know what happens is, Justin, I never do. And it sits over there. But when I can capture the idea, is this sense of, it's gone. And even during the webinar today, I've captured a couple of things from some notes, and I've got a simple capture tool. Well, there's a bunch of different ways you can do it, but capture ideas for me was the number one that enabled not only peace of mind, but ability to be a lot more productive. So just in Q&A quickly, the one idea that for you today has been the most helpful. And again, any other questions? If we can't cover questions in our timing, I've got about 5 minutes too. We'll definitely come back to you and handle those questions. David asked the question about what capture tools do we recommend. Can I suggest we'll come back with a couple of ideas, and we'll give you some where-tos and how-tos from here, David, but appreciate the question. This is from Leanne. Great session, Justin. My list and post-it notes on my desk. Is there a more efficient system? Again, we'll come back to you on those. How and where do you advise keeping the list? Great questions about it. And this come up in the training. But for me, again, number one was, there's a whole bunch of tools out there, but if I don't change the way I think and process this, then the best tools won't be, in my experience, that helpful. So we'll come back with some ideas on that. Any other questions? Commentary, 1 or 2 things that have been most useful for you today. We've got a bunch of people still online. Anything else that's been helpful, useful? Any other questions we can handle today? I think I saw one. What was the question? I saw a little back. I'll see if I can find that question from a little earlier.
And I can answer these, Jeff, while you're looking. So
you go.
I'll give you some principles to think about as you think about tools here. One, you want to have a tool with you that's accessible, right? You want to have something with you that you can capture very quickly. So whether it's a notes app, or whether it's a notebook that I write on, or a little paper notebook, you need to have something with you that you can capture ideas very quickly and get it off your mind and go back to present. Okay. The other thing is, you want a tool that's easy to use. I don't want to have to click 8 times to capture buy milk at the store. It should be very quick. Right. Once again, the goal is not to serve the list. The goal is to get stuff off your mind so you can live your life, so you can be focused and present, perform at high levels. The third is, you want a tool that's reliable, a tool that you trust you're going to use regularly. So most of you already have tools in your ecosystem you can use. You should use something you're already comfortable using, that you use on a regular basis. So if you're in the Google suite, you should use, like a Google Tasks or something to be able to capture ideas. If you're in the Outlook suite with Microsoft, you should use Outlook Tasks to manage your tasks. I like to email myself. I take pictures of things, email myself, take a note, email myself. I find that really helpful. I like to use an app called Note to Self that allows me to email myself in half the time. So there are Evernote and OneNote. There are dozens of these tools. Like Jeff said, the most important thing is your habit, that when something comes to mind, you're getting it off your mind. And the other most important is you keep a good list. So a tool should be easy to use. Don't look for something high powered if your habits aren't yet in place. Look for something simple, straightforward, and accessible. Those are the best tools every day.
Yeah, good point, Justin. And for me, being in the car particularly, I find using Google Suite, I just can, through the phone system, just say, hey, Google, add reminder to calendar for tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock. And it's that, and it's gone from my brain. Tomorrow morning, I get a reminder. So, but as you said, as opposed to me, if I got to get a notebook, I've got to go and find it. And sometimes I can't even find the notebook, but we'll come back to you with some other ideas as well. We're going to wrap up now. So Febby, can we move on, please? Second last slide. So everything we talked about today is based on David Allen's research. Again, globally proven getting things done. And there's a ton of case studies about people who have been able to transform their work, transform their life. And David himself and his organization has worked, and now through Crucial Learning, with a ton of organizations who have been able to implement productivity tools that help people with one primary thing apart from productivity, and that is peace of mind. So lastly for today, this is Amy. You will see Amy before. Amy's going to come back on camera in a second. So Amy's our product manager for getting things done. She'll come back to you with some more information and let you know how we help. We've got an upcoming GTD program. We can come back to you with an offer on that today, but we'll come back with some other details and research that'll hopefully help you not only improve your ability to be able to say no, but your ability to be able to capture ideas and implement what's important today and get a sense of well-being about moving ahead. Justin, super duper, really appreciate your time, your energy, our tech issues for today. I think people have been on enough video training and virtual training to appreciate the fact that there are tech issues, and today was no exception. We'll sort out our chat for next time. Again, thanks everyone for joining us. We do really appreciate you giving up your time. We hope that's been helpful, and we hope that you can work on improving, reducing your burnout, improving your productivity and sense of well-being. We'll reach out to you after the webinar. Let us know how we can help. Stay safe, stay well, everyone. Wherever you are in the world, have a great rest of the day, rest of the week. All the very best.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Take care, everyone.